All right, Jake, check it in. Once again, it is April 23rd, 2023. As usual, I don't really know where to start. It's been a very intense day, couple of days. Um, I had, I've had three 90-minute, or no, 3 hour long meditations with 528 hertz frequency and crystals on all chakras. I have to be close. I'm I'm now processing blockages related to just how incredible and amazing and unfathomably um, huge this is. And I feel pretty well resolved about it. I'm not there. I am still afraid of surrendering over to God, but in meditation, I am going full surrender. And in full surrender, I'm in just complete union with God, and God's bringing me through what feels like the final attachments related to existing fully with God. I surrendered a blockage. The first one today around, I was like, man, God, I still don't understand how how you allowed for how pure love allowed for darkness to come into existence. And he showed me how um, love is always going to have love in mind. I guess it's like he showed me how the highest form of love was willing to sacrifice for a short period to attain to a higher degree of love, and that's what I would be moving into. And that in allowing for darkness to come into being, it also simultaneously created a dynamic that would allow for a celebration of love and light's overcoming and penetrating the darkness. And um, he showed me how love and light would be celebrated forever, and how infinite love would continuously transcend darkness, and how like there was so much more beauty in that than just love existing on its own in a void. And so I came to truly understand what it meant to be in worship of God, into being in both simultaneous surrender and awe and gratitude of God, but also be in worship of the light conquering dark. And that was huge. That was like, I had the best day ever for for just that reason. I felt all day, I felt like I was in a celebration of love. And yeah, then the 2 sessions after that, the one I just finished up was yeah, I was just kind of processing how how truly incredible it was going to be that I was going to completely surrender myself over to God. And that I literally felt like I was on a razor's edge between where I currently exist and surrendering myself over to God. Um, and I quit the session knowing I kind of just needed to process and grieve for that, but then also feeling like next session would be completely surrendering. Although it's felt like I've had that feeling many times, and um, many times, over 2 dozen or more times, I felt like, okay, the next session I'm going to be at a point where I can completely let go forever to God. And obviously I'm still operating through my ego. So I don't know what this next session is going to be, but it feels like, it literally feels like I'm at a razor's edge, like I'm at a tipping point. Um, like there's really nothing. I'm losing even anything that I want to hold on to of myself. Oh, that's what it was. After feeling like I was about ready to give up, I stopped meditating, and I knew there was something I needed to just process, and so I came out of meditation and I just wept. I probably wept for I've wept for a solid 30 straight minutes hard today, and maybe more. I don't know. Time doesn't exist there, but this last meditation, I grieved for a solid 10 minutes, just for just grieving for me leaving. I feel like I'm leaving. I feel like I'm about to die. And I was kind of grieving for myself. I've been like trying to figure out if I need to fill out a resume and apply for jobs, or if, like, seriously, it feels like I'm literally seconds away from just being able to materialize a gold nugget in my hand. Um, or God is going to be able to show me that I'm completely cared for by materializing a gold nugget in my hand. And I was grieving, like, for the loss of myself and for the loss of all of the relationships and all the people that know me as this version of myself. I think God had me, like, it was so weird because God had me putting together a resume in my head of all of my accomplishments, and he had me truly, like, feeling, um what's the word, it's like, it was like a sense of pride. He had me feeling proud of myself. He wasn't shaming me for my ego. He had me feeling, he was like, it was like a highlight reel of all of my accomplishments going back to, like, adolescence. It was like God was constructing a resume of me in my own head, and I was legitimately proud of myself for all the shit that I've been doing, and for who I am and what I've done. Um, it just kind of made me feel like it was something, like, up to this point, I've resented my ego. I've resented this place and all of its what seemed like trivial tasks and accomplishments and everything, like in the grand scheme, it kind of felt like even the greatest accomplishment here in the ego was relatively fruitless and pointless. And I don't know, God, like, he kind of showed me how it was to be proud of those things, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know what to make of it. That's the thing, is like, God only tells you what you need to know. It's like having a military security clearance of like top secret, and then them never telling you anything because you didn't have a need. You didn't have a need to know. You have to have the clearance and the need to know. And um, I've wondered, like God, how come I don't have the gift of words of knowledge for people, or some other prophecy for? I'm like, do I have it on the level of nations, the cities, states, the globe? What is it? And he just keeps coming back with like, you don't need to know it. You don't need to know any of that. You don't need to worry about any of that. Um, all he's been directing me to do is surrender to him, to completely give myself up, and to exist in harmony with God. That's been my only directive, my only um, my only mission. I've wanted to pray for people. I've wanted to help them heal. I've wanted to give them words of encouragement and like have the gift of prophecy, and with all the work and with how intimate my relationship is with God, like, it goes beyond faith to move mountains. It's like, I know God. We have a very, very tight relationship, and um, I've just been begging God to use me in some way, and he's like, no, no, you just surrender. It's been kind of frustrating, but I get it. I think it's because I'm just meant to surrender. Or it was last week actually that God told me that leaders go first, and so he kind of did that to give me validation and encouragement, because I was struggling a lot with feeling like I was the only one that was going through this, and feeling like literally nobody would understand what I was going through, or was going to be even capable of gaining any kind of value or insight from what I'm doing. I'm just so fucking far in left field from what everybody else thinks God is, and what everybody else thinks religion is, and what everybody else thinks reality is. I'm just way out there with God. And I was feeling kind of down about it. Like, how the hell are you going to bring these lost people back to you? Why are you showing me all of this shit? Why am I incapable of relaying, convincing, or telling anybody about what I'm doing and what you're showing me? And he just told me, leaders go first. And I understood that immediately to mean that I didn't need to worry about all of those things. I didn't need to worry about the people that would come behind me, that would follow behind me. That I was just meant to be a leader. I was just meant to be the person that was able to do it first, the person that was able to surrender to God completely first. I mean, besides Jesus, God himself. I was meant to be the first human, well, the first non-miraculous human, let's say, even though I have been shown that I'm an angel embodied and I'm an alien embodied. I don't know how those two are related exactly, but God has shown me that I'm not born of a virgin per se, but um, I'm definitely not just the common human or common soul, I guess. Um, that I am somehow specifically engineered for what I'm doing. And I'm not saying that to boast. I'm not saying any of this to boast. I'm just relaying what's been shown to me. Because I'm trying to make sense of it all. Um, you have to understand, like, from my perspective, I don't make a whole lot of sense to myself either. Like, I've spent the last 3 years, well, 3 years, and it'll be 3 years in September. I've spent the last 2.5 or so years meditating 3 to 12 hours a day, covered in crystals, sometimes on psychedelics, and that's literally the only productive thing, I mean, that I've done with my time. I abandoned my business. I abandoned pretty much all of my relationships, um, all of my other passions and hobbies, tennis, basketball, everything got dropped. And I meditate and I recover. And after I recover, I meditate. After I meditate, I recover. And it's just been this cycle every single day. Like, not maybe 1 or 2 days a month I've had off from this cycle of meditating. And when I'm meditating, it's not like restful or peaceful necessarily. It's not. It's like I feel the Holy Spirit literally burning away at my soul, or yeah, my soul and my body and my mind. I can literally feel this. I can literally feel spirit like separating things in my brain, or dissolving big lumps of cells or matter in my body. Um, for the first year, I was crying. For the first year and a half, 2 years, I was crying every day. For the first year, it was intense, like weeping and gnashing, um, for hours a day. I'm being shown stuff that completely rocked my perception of reality, who I am, what this is. Just one trauma after the next. I've asked God so many times, like, why it had to be like this. Please don't let it be like this for others. And He showed me recently that, like, the rapture is going to be more or less an individual process. Like, it will be, because most people exist within the tribe, within the herd. They're all going to be the majority of people are going to be going through it simultaneously. But the process itself is an individual awakening to the truth. And that awakening process is weeping and gnashing of teeth. It's not just the heathens or the sinner or those that won't be redeemed that are going to go through tribulation. It's the tribulation is the process of being raptured and of surrendering yourself over to God so that you can be raptured and exist in heaven with God. I was shown that recently. I was shown that on Sunday. And it's something I've continuously wondered about. Yeah. And I think I think it's going to be most people that end up going through the process and being raptured. Um, I'd wondered, I'd constantly wondered, like, God, are you planning a whole genocide of humanity where just the select few lucky ones end up being aligned and ended up having the fortunate birthing and upbringing um, to be able to find you, to not be lost to their um, traumas, to their delusions, to their programming of their childhood. I mean, everybody is essentially just a result of their past, and they didn't choose it. I'm like, it can't be that you're just going to genocide everybody that didn't have a fortunate past. And he showed me recently that, like, I mean, he's going to, everybody that is meant to reunite with God will reunite with God. Everybody that God is not going to leave anybody behind that was meant to be raptured. It's not, and it's not up to us. It was never up to us. Like, that's a whole fucking lie. It was never up to us to make sure others of us got raptured. Um, Now, that's also not to say that if you are somebody who feels called to spread um, knowledge about God, about the truth, then that's exactly what you're supposed to be doing. I'm not taking away any of that, but just know that it's always God working through you, and um, it's all going to work out exactly the way God had always intended it and always foresaw it to be. It won't be anything different than exactly what God knew it to be all along. Regardless of whether or not you feel like you're doing an adequate enough job, it's all being done correctly. Which is like, which is this all, and this concept touches on some of the like most troubling and difficult attachments for me, and it's I don't, it's impossible for me to like, I guess it's impossible for me to convey the significance of surrendering over my emotional attachments to free will, and to free will really not being a thing. Um, our souls desire to have free will, freedom of choice apart from God, but in doing that, we inadvertently created darkness, because God is pure love and truth, and any deviation from that leaves a gap that's only filled with delusion and darkness. And so, to the degree that you operate outside of God's free will, which God itself doesn't have free will. God is just a pure, singular expression of perfect love. God cannot be anything other than perfect love. And so God is just continuously expressing as perfect love without any deviation, without any choice of doing anything other than that. It was us that attempted to have choice apart from that. And in so doing, we created darkness and untruth and um, delusion. And accepting all of this, understanding all of it, and surrendering over to the fact that um, I never had free will, that God doesn't really have free will, what has been difficult, but um, once it's surrendered, that is exactly the path to move back into harmony with pure truth and love. And when you get there, you find out that you never actually wanted to deviate from it. You never actually wanted to have an individualistic free will, because apart from that is, to the degree that you exist apart from that, you exist in suffering. Like, what we ultimately want is perfect peace and perfect love. And so by surrendering over my desire for choice, my desire for freedom, autonomous freedom, um, I'm ultimately surrendering over my delusion and separation from pure and infinite love from God. And that's what this process has been for me. And I'm moving from a place of grieving over not being a separate and free thing. I'm moving into a place of gratitude for what love is and what God is. And that's where God needs me to be, and that's ultimately where I want to be. It's just that the demons and darkness that I exist in, the ego, it's the ego that doesn't want to exist there, because it knows that to exist there, it cannot exist. And that's what I'm struggling with processing through. Like, literally, like I said, I was grieving for the loss of Jake and the resume and the pride and all those things that I have for who I am as an individual. And it's been very difficult. And everybody that exists in an ego, everybody that exists with this desire for freedom of choice and autonomy is going to go through the same thing. Every single person. And I do think that it is possible that some people aren't going to be capable of surrendering that part of themselves over. I mean, it's fucking tough. Even if we had an army of Christ-like enlightened beings working on them, working with them, supporting them, I foresee that there are going to be just stubborn ass holdouts that we're never really going to be capable of making the transition, and that's okay. There's no attachment to it. It's all exactly how it was supposed to be and how it always was going to be. But God is going to perfect humanity, and God is going to cleanse humanity of all of our darkness. And in some instances, that is going to look like genocide. But so then this brings me to the next thing. Another thing that he showed me was that it's not God can't commit genocide. It's actually going to be us cleansing ourselves once we realize that we're a singular consciousness, that we're both separate but also unified with God. We, in tandem and in harmony with God, are going to cleanse ourselves as a mankind, womankind. We're going to lovingly and through our own desire and a result again of pure love expressing itself in a way that it can't deviate from. We are going to cleanse our consciousness. We're going to perfect humanity, and in that process, we're going to with gratitude, we're going to allow those parts of us that exist in darkness to die away, which I'm doing on an individual basis as an individual soul, but humanity as a whole, mankind as a whole, is going to do the same thing. And he showed me that's why Jesus called himself the Son of Man, because he was the first Christed, perfected man. He was the next generation. He was the son of mankind. And so, um, yeah, as we all become sons and daughters of mankind, it's like a holistic consciousness that we're gonna come to just a whole different perspective about what we are, about um, what mankind is. And from that place, I saw, while I was grieving and moving through those attachments, from that place, I saw how we would have no grief or attachment to us cleansing ourselves, to mankind cleansing itself and becoming, all of us becoming perfected sons and daughters of man and of God. Son of God, Son of Man. But again, like, God is so much more epic. God's perception and understanding of reality and love is so much more like vast and expansive than my mind has been able to understand. And it's only been through deep meditation and connecting with the Holy Spirit that I've been able to kind of make these leaps of understanding and awareness, because all of this, and you're probably likely saying the same thing, but all of this like talk of cleansing and genocide and it being love and all this is like, it doesn't fit within my egoic, within my humanitarian mindset, from a perspective of a human on earth with a finite connections and um, finite existence. This doesn't seem like love. This is, but I had to come to an understanding that that was just my limited perception of what morality was. A limited perception. My perception of what love was is confined and restricted to existing as a human. But from the perspective of God, all of this fits. All of this fits within perfect love, within a perfect expression of love, but only from a vantage point that far exceeds my own and far exceeds humanity's. And that's why, like, the current understandings of what God is and what religion is and what love is are just silly. They're primitive is probably the best word to put it. They fall laughably short of what God truly is. And because of that, like, we will legitimately need to allow our religious beliefs, a lot of our religious beliefs, a lot of the church culture, and just the story that religions and churches have constructed around the biblical texts and what God is like. When you connect to the Holy Spirit, um, at the deepest levels, you begin to see just how silly mankind's perception of what all of this is are, and they really are. And I it's one of the things that I guess, like, for a while was most troubling. It was something that I just recently released attachments to, around grief about the church, anger at the church, and then also um, fear for the church and for the people of the church, that they're so attached to their dogmatic and cultural beliefs about all of this. They haven't yet penetrated deep into the knowledge attained only by connecting to the Holy Spirit, that it was causing me a lot of fear for them. Like, because I want everybody to know the truth. I want everybody to find comfort outside of their ignorances, and um, people that are open-minded and willing to, like, engage with new ideas are going to have an easier time than people who are clinging, like, grasping tightly to what they think is the truth. But God's reassured me that all of that's going to get worked out, that it's not something to worry about. It's all going to work out exactly how it's supposed to, and I'm literally meant to let go of all attachments. All attachments. That was actually one of yesterday's. Sorry, I keep rambling. There's just been a lot, but that was one of yesterday's blockages. Was Jesus showed up to me. Man, it's so cool. So I've been doing a lot of, in addition to frequency and crystals, I've been doing a lot of like praying and mantraing, and I've been playing around with different words and seeing how they amplify the spiritual energy coming through me. Like, what's the most powerful name for Jesus that invokes like the most amplified energy in me? What's the most powerful phrase I can say? I've even played I'll admit it, and I was free to. I've even prayed with names of other gods like Ra and Re and Thoth. Allah, I played with Allah. I did. And I was given permission to. It wasn't something that I felt like was coming from Satan or a dark place. It felt like I was meant to investigate these things. I've also prayed in tongues. Praying in tongues is extremely powerful if you reach a deep state of meditation where you're literally allowing spirit to speak for you. And it was strange because I didn't speak it out loud. I should try that actually, but I was just speaking it in my head, and it was when it was kind of difficult to do it correctly because I had to not anticipate the words. I had to not even listen in my head to what I was saying. I had to completely surrender what was being said over to spirit without any attachment or without any resisting or trying to speak gobbledygook in my own head. And when I did surrender, speaking in my head over to spirit, the spiritual energy surged immensely in my body, which was fascinating. Also, the most powerful name I found for Jesus was Yeshua. Something to play around with. There was something else I wanted to say. Oh, phrases. I've been working with phrases. I said, I am redeemed by the blood of Yeshua. And not just saying it, but feeling it. Feeling how I am redeemed by the blood of Yeshua. And there was something about that one. That is the most powerful phrase I've found. I am redeemed by the blood of Yeshua. I said it in conflict with my darkness. I said that to myself. I said that to my ego. I said that to my sense of self. I said that to my ego as Satan, my ego as demons, as a collection of my delusion, as a collection of my separation from God. I commanded and confronted myself as that. Said, I am redeemed by the blood of Yeshua. In opposition to myself, I said that, and just a huge flood. I was completely let go. My mind was just a peace beyond understanding. Jesus just took me. But yeah, it was yesterday when Yeshua showed up to me as a feeling, as like a very, very intimate, like deep feeling. And I knew immediately that it was like it was pure Jesus. It was pure Yeshua. There was no other feeling except for him. And and then from there he showed himself to me as a ball of light that was like expanding and getting brighter and deeper. I was like penetrating into, I don't know if it was growing or I was penetrating into it. I think I was penetrating into it. It was both, probably. And then, though this is another phrase I've been playing with, is Jesus or Yeshua is the path. Nobody comes to the Father except through him. And so he called me to like say that phrase, and then he showed up to me as a tunnel of light. And I felt and saw myself moving through a tunnel of light that was Jesus. And I was saying to myself, you are the path. Yeshua is the path. Nobody comes to the Father but by him.